Do you want to create engaging 3D animations like Imperial? In this video I'm going to show you how to recreate this scene, and in order to do that we have to go through these 3 steps. Imperial has over 1 million views on almost every video he uploads, and no wonder why. Combining 3D scenes with an interesting script can boost any video to reach millions of views, and after this video you will know how to make banger animations as he does. The first step consists of finding cool 3D objects and planning out the scene. This will involve finding good websites with 3D elements, and I massively recommend using Sketchfab. In this video I'll be using elements from this website, so make sure you check out the links in the description. The second step involves a 3D camera inside Adobe After Effects. Objectively, this is not hard to learn, and after this video you will know how to make cool 3D camera animations. And finally, the last step. This involves knowing which effects you should use. This can mean using blur to create a focus on some part of animation, or using certain blending options in order to create a warmer or colder vibe of animation. We're going to start our animation by importing table first, so let's drag this .glb 3D object on our timeline and then click Make Comp Size in order to adjust dimension of your model to your composition. So when you click Make Comp Size, then click OK. Select our object, and then by adjusting X rotation and setting it to 90 degrees, we can continue with modeling our scene. So next step is to import the screenshots first. So let's start importing this trench image and then click Pre-Compose and let's say first picture. Now here, make sure that you select this 3D checkbox, decrease scale size so it fits on the table, for example like this, and then by adjusting Z position value to -393, you can also decrease scale even more, for example 22%. Then next thing that I would do is create a 3D camera. So click New and Camera, and then to node camera for type, and angle of view is around 56 degrees, and then click OK. And now let's first adjust the beginning position of our animation. So let's say we can zoom in by increasing Z value for our position, and also let's increase Y value, create a new null object, and also enable 3D layer. By parenting this camera to the null object, we can add even more adjustments to our scene. So here in transform, we can even zoom in even more, and by adjusting X and Y values, we can achieve a desired look. So I'm going to zoom in even more, and here in point of interest, we can curve it so we achieve the desired angle. So we set position to 0, 472 and -831, and we can additionally zoom in even more and add a bit of more curve. But for now, let's continue with creating our scene. So next, let's import additional images. So let's start with this World War II image. So again, let's pre-compose it and then enable 3D layer. And now as you can see, it got down there, so we can use Z position value to bring it above our table, and then here we can decrease scale size to, let's say, 10%, and then we can add even slight curve. So for example, let's use Z rotation to -31, and then by playing with X and Y values, you can position it wherever you want. But I will additionally decrease scale size to, for example, 6 degrees. And finally, let's import the third picture of these nodes. And now I'm going to pre-compose it and enable 3D layer. And again, repeating the same process, we can bring it on the table, and we will place it below this World War II picture, but above the trench picture. And let's decrease scale size, and let's position it, for example, here. Add Y position change and also X position change. And additionally, we can change scale sizes as we continue with sculpting this scene. Import these can 3D objects, which you can find all the links in the description. So select make comp size and then click OK. Go to transform and here adjust X and Z rotation so we can even it out with a table, and also decrease scale size to 0.05 and then adjust Y rotation and also X rotation, and make sure that it is standing on the table perfectly so you can test it by adjusting Z position. So as you can see, if we go further below, it goes into the table, so make sure that it is sitting on the table like this, and we can slightly decrease Y rotation. So now it is standing perfectly, so we can move the X and Y positions, for example, here. What I'm gonna do is move all of these objects closer to us by selecting them and moving Y position. Next, let's import the pack of smokes object and then repeat the process by clicking make comp size and then click OK. And again, let's bring it by adjusting Z position on top and decrease scale size to, for example, 7%. Adjust X rotation so it is standing on the bottom, and again let's test if it's sitting on the table like this. And we can additionally decrease scale size to, for example, 4%. Bring it on the table, push it forward, and slightly rotate Z rotation, for example, like this. Now, after we made this first type of scene, we can play with camera angles. So first, I'm going to create a first set of keyframes by creating point of interest, position, X, Y, and Z keyframes. And let's zoom in even more. For example, like this, and let's decrease Z value for point of interest. We can zoom in even more with null object, just bring it forward like this. So we achieved this point of view, but I want to zoom in even more so we can additionally increase the null Z position, also decrease Y value for position. Let's bring it forward like this and add a bit of tilt by adjusting Z rotation. So what I would recommend is to change the size of all of these three pictures. So I'm going to select them and go to scale and slightly increase their size. And this will also involve readjusting the position of pictures. So I'm going to move these nodes slightly back and also this one to the right and closer like this. So for example, this right here is good angle. So I'm going to create additional position, anchor point, and scale for null if we later on want to animate null object. Next, let's import cigarette 3D object. So I'm going to drag it on the timeline, but make sure that you place it below camera and null object. So again, click make comp size and bring it by adjusting Z position. So as you can see, we brought it here and you can move it like this, but this will also involve decreasing scale size. So for example, 0.7. Also again, make sure that it is sitting right on the table, so you can test it by playing with Z position. So here it is sitting. We can also rotate it by adjusting Z rotation and let's move it slightly to the right. And let's make a copy of this one here. And for this layer, we can move Y position and add Z rotation, for example, here. Also add additional ones so we can replicate the exact same scene. So let's push it forward, but here let's slightly decrease Y rotation, and let's add Z rotation so it is sitting on the cigarettes. As you can see, it is going through, so we can add a bit of more Y rotation. Now let's animate the camera, so I'm going to go 10 seconds forward at the end, and also let's create a set of keyframes for anchor, position, and scale. And here let's play with Y value for position of our camera, as well as Z rotation for null object. So make sure that you also adjust point of interest to -173. So the next step is to create nicotine appearing text. So let's first draw the straight line, for example, from here to here, and let's increase stroke size to around 10 pixels and change the stroke color to white. And what I like to do is create a composition out of this line, and then we can open this composition here. Now here we can animate it. So first let's start by adding trim paths. So let's start by going to the 0 second, and here create a end keyframe. So here set it to 0% and around 1 and 10. Create another keyframe and increase it to 100%, and make sure that you select all of these keyframes and press F9 in order to turn them into easy ease. So what will this do is create this drawing effect. Let's animate nicotine appearing text. So first let's type nicotine, and let's change the fill color to white and slightly decrease size, and here you can align it to the center as well as this line. So let's push this word slightly below. Also, I'm using Menda font, for which you can find the link in the description. So let's animate the text appearing effect. So we are going to start at around 25, and here let's create a new mask. And then here in mask, select mask path keyframe. And then let's go around 2 and 11 and create another keyframe. And here we are going to leave it as it is, but let's go back, and for this keyframe here, make sure that you select this edge on the right, and by holding shift you can go straight to the left, and also move this one slightly behind. And here in mask feather you can create a keyframe, and by going to the right and creating another one, you can leave it as 0 pixels. But here you can increase it to, let's say, 66 pixels. And then select all of these keyframes and again create easy ease. And this will create this appearing effect. And finally, let's import nicotine chemical reaction image, which is transparent. So again, you can pre-compose it and open it by double clicking on it. And then here select a rectangle tool, create a white rectangle with opacity 100%, and then here select transparent checkbox, and this will color it to the white color that we want to have. So here let's decrease scale size in transform, and let's place it below all of these objects. So now let's animate opacity effect. So I'm going to create an opacity keyframe here, and for example here we are going to decrease it to around 27 degrees, and in our first keyframe decrease to 0%, and we won't create easy ease out of these keyframes. So for example here let's create another keyframe and decrease opacity to 12 degrees, and by copying this set of keyframes and pasting it one more time, we can achieve this glitching effect. So for example here we can create another keyframe and increasing it to, let's say, 58 degrees, and we can copy this set of keyframes one more time. Now let's copy this layer 2 more times, but let's place it, for example, here and add a slight rotation and place it here. And again, let's select a rectangle tool and create this sort of rectangle here. And make sure that you delete mask 1 and only leave mask 2. And then here, select inverted checkbox. And then go to the mask options and increase mask feather slightly. So for example, 32 pixels. And let's increase mask expansion, for example, like this. And maybe we can push this one forward, for example, like this. Or maybe we can decrease mask expansion a bit more. And we can push this whole composition so this word is fitting in this mask box. And also let's create a mask for this shape layer. So for this shape layer, we're going to create a composition out of it. And then let's create another mask. So select a rectangle tool and cover the main part of this line, but leave the space between this word here, for example, like this, and the end of this line. So for example, here. And then in mask options, increase mask feather. So you have this sort of fading out trail. So we're finished with this one here. So we can go back to our main composition, and by moving it below camera and null object and enabling 3D layer, we can finish this animation. So I'm going to bring it by adjusting Z position like this, and then decrease scale size to around 19 degrees and adjust X rotation to, for example, 70 degrees and push it closer to the scene. And let's additionally decrease scale size. And make sure that it is sitting right in front of this cigar here. So you can do it by playing with X and Y positions. And finally, we can add a different color to our nicotine animation. So I'm going to create a red rectangle above all of these layers and then hit this transparent checkbox in order to color it to the red color. And as you can see, we have this animation here. So now after we made this nicotine animation, we can add blur and other color corrections. So I'm going to start by creating a new adjustment layer and placing it above all of these layers, and here in effects and presets, type camera lens blur and drag it on your adjustment layer. And here in blur radius, increase it to 9 and change it to, for example, square. And then here select ellipse tool and make sure that you catch this main part here. And now here select inverted checkbox in order to invert this mask. So here let's even out this border here by increasing mask feather to, let's say, 33 pixels. And additionally, above all of these, except for this adjustment layer here, we can create a new solid color. For example, this orange CE8530, and then click OK. And make sure that you place it below this adjustment layer. And here, let's say that we can add a different blending option to, for example, lighten. And then we can decrease opacity to 15 degrees. And you can play with this option here however you want in order to achieve the look you desire. And that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And until the next time, bye.